Hello, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of our series Power People, which profiles the who's of the music industry. And today, on this very special episode, we have with us Mr. Alick Sethi, a music supervisor. We welcome you here today, sir.
Thank you so much, Ojasvi.
Yes, so Alick, firstly, tell us about your journey so far.
Wow. So I've been a music supervisor for over 20 years. I started in the UK in London, where I'm from. And strictly speaking, I wasn't quite a music supervisor. I put that down just because it's easier to say, but I started out representing independent labels, unsigned bands, all kinds of music that wasn't on the majors. And I found these bands and labels because I came from a DJing background and I represented them purely not as a label, not as a publisher, not in any way like that, but purely to help them find what we call sync deals, SYNC. And the sync deal is short for synchronization, and it means putting a piece of music onto a moving image, onto a film, or it could be a short film like an ad film, to a movie, to anything like that. And I was representing their music and getting them deals in advertising mostly around in the UK where I come from, but also in Europe. And I traveled a lot with my work so far, which has been great. And slowly, which was always the plan, I transitioned or morphed into a music supervisor, which means I was no longer tied to one set of bands, one catalog that I'd built of my own artists that I represented, but that I was helping the clients, the filmmakers, to find any
Wow.
music that they wanted or to create any music that they needed. And that's for me a step up and a step more exciting than how I started. But it was all small steps to get here. And like I said, I traveled a lot. I worked all over Europe. I've worked in the USA um, while sitting in London or being primarily based in London. And always as a freelancer, always for my own entity, which is Retox Music. And then I did a really long stretch of work in Russia, which covered the whole CIS, all of Central Asia, but most, of course, uh, all that comes from the hub, which is Moscow, which is Russia. And that was a great time because that was when I first realized that I was working in a different way than other music supervisors I saw in London who were working purely in the UK. I realized that I was working in emerging markets, in markets where the skills and expertise and the job role I was bringing wasn't fully understood, but was needed. And obviously now, coming from the UK, there are problems working in Russia. So for the
Yeah.
last, and that started even before this recent events in the last couple of years. But I've also now been coming more to Asia and especially to India. And as you probably know, I've worked on the recent Yo Yo Honey Singh documentary. So I got into long form content. I also worked last year on Guns and
So,
Gulabs.
Alec, you founded Retox Music in 2003, right? Am I right? So it
Correct.
marked the beginning of your career as a music supervisor. So what was your
Correct.
vision for, Retox Music at that time and how it has evolved over the years? I would like to know that. And has it meet the industry demands right now? Tell us about it.
So when I started, I had no idea what I was doing, and
Okay.
there was very little. I really just started it because I couldn't find a job in that area. I got some work experience with a company in London that did music supervision for ads, but a very small company, just a few people, and there were very few players in this whole scene at the time. London has a big advertising industry, it's a global hub. So that helped. So I was inspired by what was going on around me and what I saw on TV that I wanted to be involved in the music side of that. but I had no real vision in. So I don't want to disappoint everyone, but the vision was just to get going in this and just see where it got me. I mean, London and UK is very well established in terms of market dynamics and things like this, but music supervision was there was no understanding even there, or no big or deep understanding, just a need for it, but not enough people. So I got into it at a good time. And then I realized I wanted to be the full music supervisor, but I knew I had to just keep learning how to pitch, how to curate a catalog, how to organize a catalog, how to A&R, if you like. But I mean, I was never releasing this music, but it was for me. What were the needs of my clients? What were the films like that were being made? What was I being asked for? So where could I find this kind of music and do a deal with the labels or the composers and be able to represent this music. So those were really my aims. Were all short term, like get this started, get it up and running, do it properly, do it well, learn my clients' needs,
Hmm.
and from there, then when I could take a breather, I guess a few years later, when work was coming in steadily, then I realized I wanted to be a music supervisor because I started meeting music supervisors who I was pitching to, and I just thought they were the coolest people because they were all over music. They were looking at all types of music. They were doing different types of jobs and going to different places, and that's what I wanted to be. So then I pushed myself towards that.
That's great. That's very much great. So your role as a music supervisor, bridges creativity and logistics. So how did you, collaborate with Moses Singh and the production team to craft a soundtrack that balances perfectly with Yo Yo Honey Singh's iconic style and universal emotional appeal. So tell us about this collaboration.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm grateful that you like the soundtrack and you think
Yeah,
it
it was
works.
amazing.
That's great to hear. Well, the main thing about a music supervisor is, I think how to put it. So when I went in, it would be more understood, say, in a more developed music supervision market, let's say. But when I went in, even though Moses and Sikia were making a really bold and forward-thinking choice and really open-minded, I didn't know how much they needed at the time. So as a supervisor, you never go in and say, okay, you have to do this and this has to sound like this and blah, 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 blah. You go in and you see what their needs are. If the director exactly knows what music they want, let's say for a drama, for a fiction, where it's not about Yo Yo Honey Singh, who has a catalog of music. So if you go in and they know what they want, it's not my job to talk them out of it or to tell them this. If I feel there's something better and I feel they're open to it, I can suggest it. But they're making the film, it's their film, it's on their shoulders. So the first task is just to understand what do they need and how open or confident or secure are they in hearing other opinions. Some people are very sure about what they want. And with Moses, he's very sure about what he wants. I don't mean this any way to bring that impression, but he's also very open to collaboration. So I put a few pointers down or just asked if he wanted to hear my opinion on certain things, and he was very open to it. And that's for a supervisor, that's a dream.
Mhm.
He's really one of the most open-minded people in my work life that I've come across, and that's 20 plus years and uh, pretty much all over the world. So I was very encouraged, and it really inspired me. And he expects a lot from people, but he also gives you a lot of space to do your thing.
Mhm.
So it was actually a very easy project in terms of collaboration, in terms of how to work with Moses and Sikia. It was very easy. They were very open to what I brought in terms of ideas, but we were also able to discuss and turn things over and refine ideas. So they were open. Of course, when this is because this is a documentary about a musician, a music maker, a producer. On the sync side, it was actually different than working on a drama or on an ad film,
Mm.
because um, you can't tell the story of Yo Yo Honey Singh without certain songs.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll come to this later about negotiation with labels,
Mm.
but on the creative side, actually that was down to our great editor
Mm.
Deepa Bhatia, and with Moses, she was working together with Moses, and they were churning out these cuts, and I would see these cuts and I would see what they'd put in, and I had to just get the song. So on the sync side, the supervisors used to searching and licensing. There was more of the licensing and less of the searching, but that was completely normal because
Mm.
the story was made in the edit room according to
Yeah.
what they had shot, because it's not, there wasn't a script like when
Mm.
you start with a drama or a fiction. So it was a really interesting project for me. It's the first documentary I've worked on. And although I have a lot of experience, I
Mm.
was required to twist it and use it in a different way. And it was a lot of fun. And I think what made it, I mean, for me, I mean, I love the whole licensing part, watching the story come together, trying really, really hard to get them their songs that they wanted to tell that story in that way. But I
Mm.
have to say, I got the most satisfaction from working creatively on the score and working with Moses and our composer, Matthew Wang, and seeing that come together with all of us having ideas, putting them in, but balancing them with the workflow.
Mm. That's great. So you said that managing licensing, right? So over 30 songs and 20 plus music videos you have, managed, and you obviously you have, um faced a lot of challenges in this. So can you share some of the insights into the most complex or rewarding negotiations you encountered during this project, basically?
Yeah, I have to be a little careful here because of NDAs and confidentiality. But I can tell you that what was great about this project was it really brought me close, face to face with Indian labels. And wherever I've worked in the world, I've had to work with local labels and learn how to negotiate, how to talk one on one with the people at those labels, and work out culturally how they think. And I can, I see all big differences, even in between European countries, which is, the West, but you see different cultural ways of doing things, different ways that people negotiate. Um, and I hadn't done that so much with the Indian labels to date during my time working in India. I've been mostly licensing international songs. So
Okay.
this was a really great experience. And the other point to bring up is everyone is satisfied, every single one of the negotiations is, they all got closed. That the thing I'm most proud of or most satisfied with is that I don't think that they had to change the edit on the music side a lot. I think we got pretty much everything how they wanted.
Hmm.
And I'm very happy about that, because if you do a fiction piece and if there's a song that's just unobtainable, either from cost or some other reason, then you can go back. You can keep trying and trying, but at one point you'll go back to your production team or your creative team and just tell them this isn't available. We should put a different song in there. Now, if it's a car chase or a fight scene, you can just put a different song in there, but you don't have to reshoot anything. You don't have to rewrite the script. But on this, the story of this artist, it would have meant recutting things or rejigging things around. That's just how documentaries are made in general. So I'm really satisfied that we got all the songs that we wanted to tell his story. In terms of all the labels, well, it can sound daunting when you say the names of big labels, where, Universal, Sony, Z, T Series. But at the end of the day, you're dealing with people. So each label, you have the face of a person that you're dealing with. And it's just how you deal with them. So there wasn't like one strategy. That's what I'm trying to say to answer your question. There wasn't one strategy. This is how everything will work. It's that we were dealing with different people, and they have different. I mean, not in Yo Yo Honey Singh's case, but in general, they have different artists who have different requirements at different stages of their career. So you're always very aware that it's a very personal job, even though you could be dealing with a megastar's music who makes, who's known around the world and it's an icon. You're still dealing with a person to get there. So I treated each label as it came to me, each discussion, each negotiation as it came to me. And I mean, just to repeat, I mean that the main outcome is that we got songs. So that was the main target, that was the main aim, and that was accomplished.
That's great. That's great. So balancing, Netflix terms and diverse label demands and creative vision sounds very, daunting. So what strategies did you use to, ensure all the stakeholders were aligned and required music rights were secured properly? So
I
how did
really
you
have
do it?
again, I have to be somewhat careful. But again, it's just, I refer you to the last answer, because each label we weren't all sitting together with all the labels around the table together and thrashing this out and discussing it. They were all separate conversations. They all have separate songs and they're separate entities. Even though they're the same artist, the songs are not linked apart from being by Yo Yo Honey Singh. So it was really a case of talking to each label individually, having video calls, discussing with them, getting to know them a bit over the process. Because these things, and when you're dealing with song licensing, it's usually not quick. It requires time, especially when you have, say, I mean, you can see from the end credits, there are multiple songs from the same labels. So there was a lot to go through, a lot to discuss. It just took time. It's just about
Mm,
giving it the right amount of time and being able to sit through the discussion and get to the end point,
mm,
because that's what everyone wants. To At the
that's
end of
right.
the day, you have to remember that they want their songs to be seen by a big audience. They're all happy now that all the labels have written to me and said, "Oh, it's great. We really like the documentary.
Mm.
Thank you so much." At
So
one
with
point, you're sitting opposite each other on a table, but you have to remember that we're all trying to get to that point where they will watch the film and be happy about it.
Yeah, that's very true. So, with your international experience on this Indian project, like, Yo Yo Honey Singh's famous documentary, so how did you adapt global music supervision practices basically to unique challenges and opportunities in this emerging markets?
Well, in general, emerging markets. Uh, so when you work in emerging markets, I think generally part of your job should be education, because if and not in a patronizing way, but just people haven't heard about what I do. So I don't think, I mean, Moses was very aware and very clued up about who I am and what I would bring. But at the same time, I don't know if he'd ever worked with a supervisor. So, I was really careful, say, on this project at the beginning, just to tell them that if I say something, it's just a suggestion. If I put something in, and if you're cool with that. And it's not only for me to teach them, it's also for me to learn what do they need and how can I introduce it to them, and is there a way I can go in creatively. Some clients in India, they'll try a sync, they'll come to me and say, what's the price of this song they've already found out, and if I get them the price and it's more than their budget allows, they may not come back. They may not think that we could go back and ask the music supervisor to search for another song. And that's part of the education. They maybe think I'm like a middleman, like a vendor or something. And I'm more than that. I can be that, but I'm more than that. So on this project, no, it was just a case of and in general, sorry, in the Indian market, it's just a case of explaining what I do and what I can do, and how to do it, and how we could work together, and how we can make the product, the project, the film sound the best possible.
Hmm. That's great. So, having pioneered the role of, music supervision in India, how do you see the industry's perception of the, role evolving over the years, and what advice would you like to give the aspirings to enter this field?
I think it's definitely, I've been coming to India. So I made my first foray into the market in 2017. So we had a little interruption from COVID, obviously, but that's a good 7, 8 years now. So I've seen it evolve for sure. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
nobody had a clue what I was doing when I first came, and I think people in the music industry were happier that I was there, because it can help with placing their songs onto, or they see that opportunity, and they're hoping that the music supervisors will open those doors and open those gates. But there's still a long way to go. It's moved very slowly, and I'm hoping people will see this film, Honey Singh, or watch Guns and Gulabs, which is a fiction piece where we put in a lot of sync songs and showed how they work with the script and how they work with the story. And I hope it will develop further. I mean, I'm not really good at giving predictions, and I'm not really one to give predictions, because, what do they say, that such a large percentage are wrong.
Yeah.
But I think it will go in the same direction. It will open up more and more. I just don't know how fast or how quickly. But there are now, compared to when I arrived, there are now a lot of people coming into music supervision, or like Netflix now have a fully fledged department. Ram from Netflix has gone to Amazon, so now they have a fully fledged department, and that will keep spreading. Seeds blow in the wind and root and start new things, and then people work with music supervisors, and hopefully it's a good experience, and they'll talk about it. So, like anything in life, that's how it will spread. I would say there's one little thing missing here. In my opinion, people might disagree, but I would say, like in the West, music supervisors, we all compete for the same jobs. We all have the same role. We all want to work on jobs from film producers, film directors. But when that's finished, we're happy to go and have a drink. We're happy to even arrange social events, just within the supervisor community and the sync agents community. And I think there could be more supervisors together, or it's just my experience, but maybe more of a community, and bit more helping each other out. And I think that would actually launch it much stronger and make it go much further, much quicker. So if there were things like that, and maybe there are, maybe I'm missing it, but if there were things like that, then I think it would become a defined community, and it would get into people's minds much more quickly. And it would also help the supervisors. When we go to these drinks, no one's like too guarded when we go to these events in other parts of the world. We're all talking about our experiences and different adventures we've had on jobs, and how we did things, and within limits, because everyone's still competing. But it's much less guarded, and I think that's one thing I see a bit less of in India. But I also am not strictly Indian, so it's maybe not my place to say, but I just think that always helps. When you see conferences, mixer events, get-togethers, they're always more general or more specific for something that's more established. And I think in music supervision, um, it could be good to start doing this, to start getting people together and to show that we're a force and to show who we are.
Yeah, that's great. So, what are the upcoming projects lined up for Alick right now?
Upcoming, right now I'm just finishing everything off and just taking a breather, and it has been so intense on Honey Singh. There are a couple of things in the pipeline, but I can never talk about them. Um, one is another documentary,
Wow. Yeah.
um, but I can't even go further than that. And
Mhm.
and I'm always looking at different opportunities. I'm looking within India. I've started working with someone in India called Aruna, and I'm really excited about that. She's someone who wants to be a music supervisor, so it's great to have someone on the ground there.
That's
And
great.
also, I've always been a kind of group of one, gang of one, as it were. So it's also interesting how to, not in a workshop, which is a couple of days, but actually on a rolling basis, how to share what I'm looking for, what's our vision, what are we trying to achieve. So yeah, there's a couple of things also that I've worked on that are going to be released, but you'll see them when I can release them.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. They're so secretive
Yeah.
that I really have to be careful what I say. But
So
yeah,
where do you
there's
how do you see music industry in next 5 years? What's your take on that?
I don't give I don't give predictions. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I just hope there's still I hope there's more music supervisors in India. I hope not just that there are more music supervisors in India because it's a balance. I hope there are more of our clients and filmmakers and artists and visionaries on the visual side who realize what a music supervisor can bring, how useful it is, how powerful it is to tell the story through of the music through a music supervisor. So I hope there are more music supervisors because there are more opportunities for music supervision. Um, that's all I hope. For the rest, we'll see what happens, and I hope I'll be here to share it with you.
Mm. Thank you so much, Alec, for your precious time. It was great having you on our show. It was our pleasure. Thank you so much, and all the best for your future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.